Imagine, if you will, this huge corporate engine. It's kind of running your life in Indonesia.
Oh.
Owns the TV stations you watch,
Yeah.
the big free-to-air ones. Controls the fastest-growing streaming platform, too. Operates the hospital where your family might get specialized care. Sells super-fast satellite internet. Even handles, like, the catering and cargo at major airports. I mean, how does one company actually manage an ecosystem that sprawling? It seems almost impossible.
Yeah, it really does sound like something out of a corporate fantasy, doesn't it? But that's basically the reality of PT Elang Mahkota Teknologi, TBK, or EMTEK as most know it.
Right, EMT.
And they're deep into this really intense strategy, moving from just being the media king to becoming this national conglomerate.
And that's exactly our mission today. We're doing a deep dive into EMTEK's 2024 annual report. It's titled Broadening the Horizon. We really need to unpack how they're navigating, these rapid economic shifts, all the tech disruption, and how they're actually using that disruption to try and secure dominance across Indonesia's most critical high-growth sectors.
What's really fascinating, I think, is that this diversification, it isn't random at all. It feels very strategic. They seem to be using the stability, the cash flow from their, let's call it, established media core to make these pretty aggressive bets on digital services, specialized healthcare, infrastructure. And crucially, they're framing this whole massive expansion around strong corporate governance, GCG, and ESG commitment.
Yeah, and they certainly needed that robust strategy in 2024. The report mentions the national political turbulence. You had the big presidential and regional elections.
Right.
And that apparently really constrained advertising budgets. That's got to be a massive headwind for a company with deep media roots.
Oh, absolutely. It's the ultimate stress test, right? Given that kind of pressure on traditional ad revenue, the big question for us as we look through this is, are these newer ventures like the healthcare, the digital services, are they pulling enough weight yet, to offset that cyclical pressure?
And the answer seems to be.
Well, the answer appears to be yes, actually, or at least increasingly so, because they're clearly not fully reliant on that legacy ad spend anymore.
Okay, good point. Let's unpack segment 1 then. Media and digital. EMTEK is core, as you said.
Yeah.
Started in media. Before we jump to all the shiny new digital toys, we should probably acknowledge that legacy dominance. How strong is the traditional broadcast segment, really? And why does it still matter so much?
It matters hugely because it's basically the engine funding the expansion, right? They operate 5 major free-to-air TV stations, SCTV, Indonesia, Mentari TV, others too. Combined, they command a massive audience share. We're talking 36.1% nationwide. Just think about that reach for a second.
36%? Wow. Those numbers are huge. SCTV is dominant at 14.1%, and Indonesia are close behind at 13.5%. This isn't niche stuff. This is culturally embedded programming.
Exactly. It is. And they are absolute masters of creating that hyper-local, high-interest content that resonates. Like, for example, during Ramadan, SCTV series Para Pinkari Tuhan Volume 17, it hit an average audience share of 24.8%. That's huge.
Wow.
And Indonesia, they did incredibly well with national team soccer matches, pulling in almost 24% audience share. So this traditional dominance, it isn't dying off yet. They're maximizing the revenue from it, probably before the inevitable big shift.
And that shift, of course, is video, their national over-the-top or OTT streaming platform. This feels like the real power move, the one that secures their digital future.
Video is absolutely crucial, and it's not just, surviving against global giants. It's actually winning in its home market. It's ranked #1 in Indonesia for monthly active users, MAU. And maybe more importantly, it was consistently #1 by consumer spending in Q4 2024. It actually surpassed other major global OTT players operating in Indonesia.
Okay, so it's not just eyeballs clicking around. It's paying subscribers. It's engagement that's generating, serious cash flow.
Exactly right. They've clearly invested heavily in quality content, too, launching over 15 new original series just in the period. And that quality is starting to get regional recognition. They mentioned a collaboration with Unified TV in Malaysia that shows Indonesian local content is now seen as, international export quality.
That's quite a statement. If we look at the market context here, how perfect is the timing for this video push?
Oh, the timing looks impeccable. Indonesia's OTT video market revenue, it's projected to hit something like US $1.4 billion by 2025, and growing significantly, maybe to $1.8 billion by 2029. So EMT is essentially moving its dominance from the analog side right onto this exponential digital growth curve. They're using the profits from yesterday to buy the future of media consumption.
Right. So here's where it gets really interesting for me. Where's that video cash flow actually being deployed? Let's jump into segment 2. broadening the horizon.
Yeah.
Because it seems it's not just going into more media. It's going into these specialized, maybe more stable services. Let's start with healthcare. They brand it as EMC Healthcare. Why the intense focus on hospitals all of a sudden?
Well, I think this is fundamentally about balancing risk. Media profits can be cyclical, tied to advertising, as we just discussed. Healthcare demand, on the other hand, tends to be stable, non-cyclical. The EMC healthcare division, according to the report, saw stable double-digit revenue growth, 14.0% in 2023 compared to the year before. They're clearly building a serious asset portfolio here. It's not just a side hustle.
And it seems like they're aiming for a very high-quality operation, too. What kind of standard are we talking about?
Yeah, definitely aiming high. International standards. They operate 8 hospitals now, with nearly 1,400 beds total. Some locations, they mention, even hold JCI certification. And for you listening, JCI is pretty much the gold standard for international patient care accreditation. It's a big deal.
Oh, yeah.
They're also deploying advanced tech, like something called the Biograph Vision Quadra PCCT scanner. High-end stuff.
But didn't the report point out a significant tension here? Something about the cost of all that cutting-edge technology?
It did, yeah. That's the big challenge, not just for them, but for the whole country. Medical inflation. It's projected to hit 13% in Indonesia, which is actually higher than the Asian average of around 11.4%.
13%, wow.
And the report directly links this high inflation to the cost of advanced medical technology, the very stuff they're investing in.
So how do they manage that? High tech versus cost.
Well, their stated strategy seems to be increasing their ownership stake in PT Sarana Metatama Metropolitan TBK, that's AA-AMI. The idea is probably to ensure centralized quality control, standardized services, maybe gain some purchasing power. Basically try to manage costs better under that inflationary pressure while still delivering high quality.
Okay, wait a minute. So we've gone from streaming TV shows to specialized surgical theaters. And now we're talking about, what, refueling jets and handling cargo. This doesn't just feel like diversification anymore. It feels like they're building a mini economy. How on earth does the acquisition of PT Cardiac Aero Services, TBK, GTSS, fit into this sprawling vision?
Yeah, it is quite a leap, isn't it? But I think it addresses the infrastructure backbone of a growing nation. SkiS, which they acquired in April 2024, seems pretty pivotal. It provides these integrated solutions for air transport, ground handling, cargo, food services, and it covers over 70% of national air traffic, operating in 9 major international airports.
70%, okay.
They're essentially betting on Indonesia's macro growth trajectory as a major travel and trade hub in the region.
And it looks like that bet is paying off pretty quickly.
Seems so, yeah. The report says post-acquisition, Ski saw a 6% increase in flight movements and, quite significantly, a 31% growth in managed cargo volume in 2024.
31% growth in cargo.
Yeah. It's directly tapping into that post-pandemic travel rebound and general economic activity. And remember the context. Indonesia is often cited as the world's second fastest growing aviation market, right after China. So they're leveraging these big macro trends at scale.
Okay, fascinating. Now, let's look at segment 3. The digital ecosystem. These are maybe the unseen components that kind of tie this whole complex web together. What's driving the others segment in the report? Specifically thinking about finance and e-commerce here.
Right. This is where they really solidified the network effects, I think. In e-commerce, they strengthened their position in Bukalapak, increasing their direct shareholding to over 40%. And the core focus there, they state, is empowering micro, small, and medium enterprises, MSMEs, which, as you know, are just the absolute engine of the Indonesian economy.
And that links directly into their digital banking play then, Superbank.
Precisely. Superbank is leveraging a key strategic partnership with Korea's Kakao Bank, a big name in digital banking. Their target isn't just everyone, it's specifically the underbanked community, especially those MSMEs and retail customers who need better digital access to financial services.
And the demand must be huge.
Oh, it's massive. The report cites digital banking transactions in Indonesia grew by a staggering 34.43% year-on-year in Q3 2024 alone.
Wow, 34% growth. Okay, so media dominance feeds cash flow. That cash flow buys stable services like hospitals and aviation support. But the actual infrastructure itself needs modernizing, right? I know they mentioned pushing generative AI across the board, media production, hospital efficiency everywhere, but their connectivity moves seem equally aggressive.
Yeah, they're definitely building the modern backbone. Their subsidiary, TM Tenggara Mitracom, became an official reseller for SpaceX's Starlink.
Starlink, okay.
Which offers those low Earth orbit LEO satellite services. This means high-speed, low-latency connectivity, and they're specifically targeting hard-to-reach but vital sectors like maritime, remote finance, or banking operations, and even media field teams.
And who handles the physical nuts and bolts, installing all this smart infrastructure?
That seems to be PT Abhimata Citra Abadi, or ACA. They're positioned as the builders of this sort of smart city ecosystem. They're implementing things like smart street lighting systems for toll roads, often leveraging IoT tech. They're also securing major contracts for the complex MEP work, mechanical, electrical, plumbing in high-demand facilities like Tier 3 and Tier 4 data centers.
So they're quite literally installing the digital future.
You could say that, yeah.
Now, this whole expansion cuts across some highly regulated sectors: banking, healthcare, aviation. That brings us back to the foundation you mentioned right at the start. What kind of governance GCG is needed to sustain this level of complexity and, frankly, risk?
Yeah, the foundation has to be rock solid, which is probably why GCG is emphasized so much throughout the report. It doesn't feel like just a box-checking exercise. They talk about investing heavily in IT security, including setting up a disaster recovery center, a DRC system.
Right, a DRC.
Very important. It means if there's a major system failure or some kind of disaster, they're critical operations. Hospitals, banking systems, aviation scheduling have a backup they can survive. They also conduct regular anti-bribery management system training, adhering to international standards like ISO 3701. That suggests a real effort towards high internal integrity across all these diverse businesses.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly to the capital needed for this massive multi-sector growth push. Segment 4, financial strength. What does the balance sheet actually look like? Is it stretched thin?
You might expect it to be, given the aggressive expansion, but actually their financial health looks highly conservative. They maintain a very healthy capital structure where equity dominates. Over 80% of the total structure is equity. Specifically, the 2024 numbers were 86.0% equity versus only 14.0% liability.
86% equity, that provides a huge buffer, doesn't it? Financial freedom for future moves or managing unexpected market shocks.
Exactly. It's a massive shock absorber. And beyond just the capital, how is the actual leadership managing such a wildly diverse portfolio? The report touches on that too.
Yeah, the human side.
Right. The human capital focus seems strong. The board of directors' performance assessment result was apparently excellent, which signals strong leadership from the top. And they seem heavily focused on talent development internally, launching programs like EMTEK led for leadership empowerment, and even establishing an Institute of Media Digital EMTEK, the IMDE.
IMDD, okay.
Yeah, presumably to ensure they're building the specific talent pipeline they need for this digital high-tech pivot they're making.
And it sounds like they're working hard to ensure ethical standards keep pace with the business growth, too, guided by things like the ASEAN Corporate Governance Scorecard.
They seem to be. Their commitment looks pretty deep on paper, including a comprehensive code of conduct and, quite significantly, a specific task force dedicated to the prevention and handling of sexual violence in the workplace.
That's notable.
It is. It suggests they recognize that ethical and transparent practices aren't just nice-to-haves, they're prerequisites for operating successfully across all these sensitive and regulated industries.
Okay, well, that wraps up our deep dive into EMTEK strategy based on their 2024 report. Just to quickly summarize the takeaways for you listening, this really isn't your traditional media company anymore, is it? It's become a highly diversified conglomerate. It strategically leverages its media core, especially the cash flow from video, to acquire these stable, non-cyclical, high-growth services, specialized healthcare, aviation infrastructure, all tied together by fintech and digital backbones.
That sums it up well. And the future, it really seems to hinge on Indonesia's booming digital economy. That's the massive tailwind here. The country is projected to reach a gross merchandise value, or GMV, of around US $90 billion by 2024. That's the largest market in Southeast Asia. And that growth provides the runway for basically every single segment EMTEK is now operating in.
So it's an ecosystem deliberately built to scale alongside the nation's digital ascent.
Precisely. But remember that tension point we identified back in segment 2. Advanced medical technology is a primary driver of Indonesia's high medical inflation, projected at 13%.
Right, the cost of innovation.
Exactly. So given EMTEK's stated commitment to providing internationally standardized care, which requires that tech, it raises a really important question for you to think about. How long can a private healthcare provider like EMC realistically balance the continuous introduction of life-saving but very high-cost technology with the broader national goal of achieving wider, more accessible healthcare coverage for everyone? That tension between cutting-edge investment and mass affordability, that might be the ultimate strategic challenge for them and companies like them over the next decade, something worth mulling over.